Okay, here I am at the November 7th, 1980, which has 2 on the same day because it was a baby that passed. This is in West Valley. This defies the odds. Probably the only one in the state. 137 babies born that day. Statistically, it was almost 1,000, like 1 out of almost 1,000 die. So this defies the odds. This is the cemetery closest to my house. The next one also has the November 7th with my patriarchal blessing on my birth year. You see how the Lord's doing this? I mean, this is stunningly defying the odds, like beyond anything. I'm not gonna go over everything. Here is the Dennis right there. There's my mom's birthday. There's my dad's middle name, Paul. There is the July 1st, 2004, I got my patriarchal blessing. July 2nd, 2004. There's 4 July 4ths around, seconds. There's 4 July, there's one of them. I'm not gonna go over those. And then for some reason, there's a July 2nd, 2004 derivative right there. So that's right across kitty corner from the November 7th, 1980, the Mesa Temple, which is where I got my blessing, right down the road from it. I lived across the street from the Mesa Temple when I got it. Also, my grandma, that has her pattern, her death pattern, July 2nd, 2007. So it has my patriarchal blessing derivative as well as her pattern. It's got January 23rd. I'm gonna show this one. Here's this July 2nd, which I did show in the other video. And then I don't think this is coincidence. This is 6 days from an ordination, which would be Benson. And it's just a few days from the priesthood revelation. So the Lord is signifying this stone as a major revelation and an ordination. Next to my July 2nd, the other July 2nd in the same row, the July 2nd, 2004 derivative. And then the only, and by the way, there's a November 10th on another ordination year, which is basically just kitty corner from this right here. And Benson was ordained November 10th, 1985. So that's interesting. But the only November 7th, literally, I've searched this whole area. There's a few way down there. This one, which has got Joseph Smith's birthday, the November 7th. It's got all these prophetic symbols right around it. I'm not going to go over those again. But how in the world do these just happen to form a line? Look at this. It hits this. So that would be 3 November 7ths that it hits. It hits the Dennis right there. And there's the other November 7th right there. Actually, that line, it would miss. It would miss that November 7th. In order to get it through that, I have to go through this November 7th. But what are the odds of all this? So I go through this right here, and then I go through the November 7th with my patriarchal blessing day. So I would skip that. I would skip that. So it hits this. Look at my that's as strong as an identifier of me. My patriarchal blessing has this special message in it. It's the most important thing to me that gives me hope. My November 7th, right next to that, this is not coincidence. The Mesa Temple, the July 1st, 2004, and then it goes into this November 7th with my mom's middle name, with Scott, his month, year, with David O. McKay. There's no way. There's just simply no way. There's a November 17th on a prophet's birth year with a November 7th prophet's year, as well as it's next to a 1980, which is also a January. And I'm a November 7th. That's a January. November 7th apostle right there. Anyways, I'm not going to show everything here, but I did want to point out a couple things. I didn't notice this in the last video. There's the Sharon with the April 12th, 1951. Look at this. I said that the Lord tied my father and my mother into David O. McKay's ordination, essentially. His ascendancy, his official ascendancy and succession to the transition to the presidency of the church. And my dad is October 9th, 1951. McKay's sustaining is April 9th, 1951. There's my dad's, October 9th. But look at the April 9th going into it. It makes sense. That's not a coincidence because it's right next to this. That my mom is the Sharon who gives birth to the Aaron. Just kitty corner from the July 1st, 2004, my patriarchal blessing. And right next to all this, but look at what else I just found. Immediately across from the April 12th, 1951 and my dad's birthday, look. A Dennis. You have a Dennis with an Aaron pattern. Maybe that part's coincidence, but I don't believe this is, because if there was no street here, it's the very next row, basically. It's the very next grave next to the 1951. Anyways, I'm not going to spend too much time on that. And also this has a Paul pattern. Same name, Pauline, the Dennis, the Paul. That fits my dad, Dennis Paul Iacono. But let me show you the next November 1980, closest to that one. Watch this. Watch this. There's another one over there. That one might be closer. I'll get to it though. It might be closer, but look at this. November 1st, 1980. It's a prophet's birthday, John Taylor. Look at the birth. Monson, August 21st, 1927. This is literally unbelievable. This is super hard to get. You might say, well, why didn't the Lord just make it on August 21st? Well, first of all, to get that close to a prophet's birth is super hard. And maybe by making it a 6, he gets Uchtdorf's. So he kills 3 birds right here, or several, more than that. And one person, William, has the I am pattern. Coincidence? The closest one to that, let's look. Okay, the one kitty corner from it. Look, my mom's birthday, September 12th. Coincidence? Or is he pointing to a specific birth, specific message, specific family, specific individual? Let's go through that right there. And he was in the military. So this is him. I hit the corner of that, right where that is, and I go through this. See the November 1st, 1980? See? August 6th, 1927. Watch. Perfect straight line. It hits this one, and then it hits the Aaron. Both dates are prophetic birth years, Monson, 1927. I'm going to show a couple things. 2 down from the Aaron. You have a very special and rare November 13th, 1900, which is a November 7th Apostles representation. 6 days after his birth. But it defies the odds even more than that, because November 13th is a president of the church's birthday. Is he stamping the November 7th apostle symbol with the president of the church's birth? 2 down from there. No. Look at this. Just kitty corner from that, right there. Look at this. The very day President Benson was ordained, the very day, November 10th, 1985. I could get into other reasons why I believe I am tied to this. Kimball's death date, 2 days before my birthday, which was on the 5th, which I was turning 5, and then his stone forms a line with Nelson into the hospital of my birth. But let me show you, and it's next to an April 12th, which is an ordination, and look, an April 9th. Those are the 2 most connected to my parents, April 12th and April 9th. Which is McKay's ascendancy. His sustaining, April 9th. His ordination, April 12th. Watch this. Here's why I don't believe this is coincidence. First of all, the proximity right here is stunning. So you go over here. It has a November prophet's birthday with my mom's pattern. Look, Rivera, Vera. Coincidence? Coincidence? President Benson's ordination date right behind me. Look at the very next one. Benson. I'll walk for hours and not see these. Coincidence? Am I misreading the Vera? The Benson? Look. There it is. Benson's ordination. The Vera is the one most aligned. Benson? Look at the very next one. It has my mom's middle name, Faye, another Benson. I'm not going to show everything or the video will be too long. I could go for hours. There's lots of confirmations right here, just in this area. And right across from the Aaron, right there, there is a July 2nd, 2004 derivative. Switch the 7 and the 2, July 2nd. November prophet, November 22nd. Let's go down. I doubt that's coincidence. I'm Marion, Aaron, M.I., William, I.M. That's across from November 13th, 1900. Now, let's go down. And look, this could be coincidence. I'm starting to think it's not. It's close. First of all, September 21 is my mom's symbols, just in different order. Switch the 2 and the 1. That part sounds crazy. I get it. By the way, Oman, David Oman McKay. But it fits an ordination May 21st, 1945. So this is just preliminary. It's got the Oman, like David Oman McKay, a prophet's name. Now, look at the next one. My patriarchal blessing, July 2nd, 2004. That's a 2005. Married, they were sealed 1973, like my parents, and one of their kids is a Cami with my initials, Aaron Madison Iacono. Coincidence? Let's go on. Here's another 1980. Now let's go to the wall. Here's another November 7th, 1980, which I found on Google. That one I found accidentally across the street. I found that accidentally. Now, notice something. It's 2 prophets' birthdays. Lee and Kimball. Coincidence? I don't think so. And in the same row is the Aaron, or no, the November 1st, 1980 is another July 2nd, right there, my patriarchal blessing. And it has a Dennis next to it. It has a Dennis, it has a prophet's birthday, June 1st, with my birth year, 1980. It also has the Vera pattern. So the Dennis, the July 2nd. And then this one has another prophet's birthday. And then it goes down to the November 1st, 1980. Let me see if I can show one more here. So here's that right there. Let me see if I can show one more. Somebody's trying. Okay, so look at this. To get a prophet's birthday on another prophet's birth year, well, it does happen often. It's usually generally not the case most of the time. I don't know if it's 80 or 95. I don't try to obsess over perfection. That's not normal, so that got my attention. Here's why I don't believe that is coincidence, because look at this. Directly across you have a Dennis with my dad's birth year in 1951, but it's a November prophet's birthday, Hunter. Here is another reason this is not coincidence. Look, next to that, my patriarchal blessing date, which is my grandma, my father Dennis's mom, the very day she died, on July 2nd, 2007. Look at this. I go through this, I go through that. The next one, it has a Camille, it has the AMI pattern, and then it perfectly hits that. But one more thing, here's the September 12th that I showed that forms the line with that into the air. Look at what is behind that. My mom is from Los Angeles. Look, my mom is from Los Angeles. Here's a Marion, Erin MI, my first wife's birthday on a November 7th Apostles birth year with Dallin H. Oaks birth year. None of this, well, most of this is not coincidence. And then look, another November 14th right next to that. There's no way that's coincidence.